They dismiss certain people quickly, calling them pretentious, difficult, or unnecessarily complicated. They laugh louder when ideas become abstract, changing subjects before silence exposes uncertainty. They praise confidence while subtly resisting depth, mistaking simplicity for clarity. At first it feels like an external observation, something safely belonging to others. Then a quieter recognition forms, suggesting something more protective is unfolding beneath awareness. What looks like arrogance may be something far older, waiting to be uncovered. The title sounds dramatic, yet the behavior itself often appears ordinary, woven into daily interactions without ceremony or conscious intention. Here the phrase fake smart does not name a person. It describes a pattern, a posture the mind adopts under specific psychological pressures. Truly intelligent minds are not defined by credentials or vocabulary, but by comfort with uncertainty, nuance, and intellectual vulnerability. The tension arises when surface intelligence encounters depth it cannot easily control, triggering something closer to instinct than opinion. Many assume this reaction reflects insecurity or ego weakness, yet psychology often reveals survival strategies where judgment seems obvious. Psychologist Carl Jung observed that the ego defends its image with remarkable creativity, especially when identity feels quietly threatened. In this frame, dismissiveness becomes less about superiority, more about containment, a way to shrink what feels overwhelming. A meeting room grows tense as one voice calmly reframes a complex problem. Others respond with jokes, side comments, and sudden impatience. No one challenges the idea directly. Instead, the atmosphere shifts. Intelligence is reframed as impractical. Tone replaces content. The group leaves agreeing the speaker was smart but unrealistic, preserving collective comfort without engaging the unsettling depth offered. This pattern is often first noticed in others, making it easier to label than to recognize internally. A friend interrupts thoughtful pauses with confident summaries, speaking quickly, filling space, avoiding the silence where complexity might surface. The speed feels impressive, yet something subtle is missing. Curiosity gives way to performance. Here intelligence is performed as certainty, not exploration, because certainty protects status within the social moment. Evolutionary psychologists suggest humans evolved to manage hierarchy efficiently, favoring signals of competence that reduce social friction. Depth disrupts hierarchy because it introduces ambiguity, slowing decisions, questioning assumptions, and quietly redistributing authority. A workplace rewards decisive answers, not careful thinking, so surface cleverness becomes safer than sustained inquiry. In such environments, those comfortable with complexity appear destabilizing, not because they are wrong, but because they change the rules. A parent responds to a child's thoughtful question with humor or dismissal, not unkindly, but quickly, restoring familiar authority. The child learns that certain depths invite discomfort, that curiosity can feel like challenge rather than connection. Over time, intelligence becomes something to manage, not develop, a tool for stability rather than discovery. Behavioral scientist B.F. Skinner noted that reinforced behaviors persist, especially when they reduce immediate psychological discomfort. Dismissing depth often brings relief, social approval, and restored confidence, quietly reinforcing the pattern. What looks like fear of intelligence is often fear of exposure, the risk of being seen without rehearsed answers. In social spaces, appearing knowledgeable matters more than actually knowing, because appearance secures belonging. This is why truly intelligent minds unsettle certain dynamics. They ask without asserting, observe without performing, and remain open. Such openness removes the armor others rely on, making the encounter feel asymmetrical and unsafe. Some people will recognize this immediately, not as accusation, but as an oddly familiar emotional shift. What remains unseen is where this reflex first formed and why it once felt necessary for survival. If you're still watching, you probably notice things most people miss. You question behavior. You look beneath the surface. If that sounds like you, subscribe. This channel was made for minds like yours. Every psychological pattern begins as an answer to an earlier environment, shaped long before language or conscious reasoning takes control. The brain does not ask whether a behavior is true or false. It asks whether the behavior keeps connection, safety, and position intact. During childhood, intelligence is first measured socially, not intellectually, through approval, correction, and subtle emotional signals from authority figures. A child explains something carefully, pausing, choosing words. An adult interrupts with certainty, smiling, reclaiming control of the moment. The lesson lands quietly, depth slows things down, speed restores order, and approval follows the one who sounds sure. Another child asks why rules exist. The response comes sharp and final. Curiosity is reframed as disrespect rather than engagement. Here intelligence becomes risky, not because it is wrong, but because it destabilizes established roles. Evolutionary psychologists suggest young humans adapt rapidly to social hierarchies, learning which traits preserve belonging and which threaten it. When curiosity leads to social friction, the nervous system records danger, not logically, but emotionally, storing it as future avoidance. A classroom rewards correct answers delivered quickly, not thoughtful silence, teaching performance over exploration. The brain learns that appearing smart matters more than thinking deeply, because appearance receives immediate reinforcement. Psychiatrist Viktor Frankl described how meaning is shaped under constraint, where survival narrows perception toward what works fastest. In unstable environments, certainty feels safer than complexity because certainty signals control when resources feel scarce. A child watches peers laugh at someone struggling to explain a nuanced idea. Embarrassment spreads faster than understanding. The observing mind absorbs the message without reflection. Do not linger, do not complicate, do not reveal uncertainty. Over time, this becomes automatic. Depth triggers discomfort before thought intervenes. The fear is not of intelligence itself, but of what intelligence threatens: exposure, loss of status, social isolation. A family gathering grows quiet as someone challenges a long-held belief gently. Others respond with teasing, restoring emotional equilibrium. The challenger feels the shift instantly, warmth replaced by distance, learning the cost of intellectual deviation. The brain marks the event, associating depth with relational risk. Neuroscience shows that social rejection activates pain circuits similar to physical injury, making avoidance neurologically sensible. Thus, the mind builds a shortcut: dismiss what destabilizes, assert what reassures. This shortcut is not chosen consciously. It is inherited through experience, repeated until it feels like personality. In adolescence, identity crystallizes around what gains respect. Cleverness becomes performance, not inquiry. Someone learns to speak confidently on topics barely explored, rewarded for tone rather than substance. Their sense of intelligence grows tied to impression management, not internal coherence. When later encountering someone comfortable saying, "I do not know," curiosity exposed, the contrast feels threatening. The threat is not comparison, but collapse, because the old strategy depends on never slowing down. Carl Jung observed that what the ego cannot integrate, it projects outward as irritation or dismissal. The truly intelligent mind reflects uncertainty calmly, offering no hierarchy cues, leaving the other without footing. A workplace promotes those who simplify aggressively, sidelining those who complicate narratives with inconvenient truths. The promoted learn what intelligence must look like to survive within that system. Over years, fear attaches not to ignorance, but to environments where ignorance becomes visible. This explains why ridicule often appears before argument, because ridicule restores dominance without requiring understanding. A colleague responds to a complex proposal with sarcasm. Laughter ripples, tension dissolves. The group feels relief, not insight, and the pattern strengthens. Such origins rarely feel dramatic in memory. They feel normal, forgettable, ordinary. Yet these small moments wire the nervous system toward protection over exploration. What once preserved belonging now reacts automatically, long after the original danger has passed. The deeper irony remains unnoticed. The strategy designed to appear intelligent grows increasingly fragile, because it relies on controlling perception, not expanding understanding. As adult life unfolds, this inherited reflex does not stay private. It begins to shape conversations, alliances, conflicts, and quiet power struggles in plain sight. By adulthood, the pattern no longer feels defensive. It feels like preference, taste, or personality expressed through everyday social behavior. Most people first recognize it outside themselves, noticing reactions before understanding mechanisms operating beneath awareness. In friendships, depth often arrives softly. Someone shares a layered thought, pauses, leaves space for reflection. The response comes quick and confident, a simplified takeaway delivered with charm, closing the moment before it opens fully. Everyone moves on, comfort restored, yet something unresolved lingers beneath the exchange. The one who slowed the pace is quietly marked as intense, while the interrupter feels socially successful. In romantic relationships, curiosity can feel like threat when it exposes emotional ambiguity rather than providing reassurance. A partner explores feelings with nuance, the other responds with conclusions, labeling emotions instead of entering them. The conversation ends efficiently, but intimacy thins, replaced by control disguised as clarity. Families display this pattern through tradition, where questioning inherited beliefs is treated as disruption rather than contribution. A holiday table falls silent as one voice reframes a familiar story. Laughter follows, the tension dissolves. No argument occurs, yet a boundary is reinforced. Some thoughts belong outside this room. At work, hierarchy magnifies the behavior. Intelligence becomes a signal rather than a process. Meetings reward those who summarize quickly, even when summaries erase crucial complexity. Someone introduces nuance carefully, their words reframed moments later by louder voices seeking resolution. The group accepts the simplified version, not because it is accurate, but because it feels decisive. Power prefers clarity over truth, because clarity stabilizes authority. A manager praises confidence publicly, while quietly avoiding those who ask inconvenient questions. The questioning mind becomes labeled difficult, not due to tone, but due to impact on control. In public spaces, the pattern appears through mockery of intellectual depth. Complex ideas are reduced to punchlines, curiosity reframed as pretension, laughter serving as social glue. Those who laugh feel aligned, those who do not feel exposed. Social media accelerates this reflex, rewarding certainty delivered fast. Nuance struggles to survive algorithms designed for instant comprehension and emotional reaction. A thoughtful post receives silence. A confident oversimplification spreads widely. Observers internalize the lesson without reflection. Speed equals intelligence. Depth equals risk. Even within groups dedicated to learning, surface mastery often outperforms genuine inquiry. A discussion becomes competitive, not collaborative, each contribution seeking dominance rather than understanding. The truly intelligent participant listens longer, speaks later, unsettling the rhythm. Silence feels threatening in performance-driven spaces, prompting others to fill it aggressively. This creates the illusion that intelligence is loud, when often it is restrained. Psychologist Carl Rogers noted that genuine understanding requires conditions most social environments quietly discourage. Where vulnerability threatens image, intelligence becomes armor rather than exploration. The fear surfaces subtly, through impatience, sarcasm, over-explanation, and dismissal framed as practicality. People rarely see the fear directly. They experience it as irritation toward complexity. Most first notice it in someone close, before suspecting how familiar the sensation feels internally. Modern life intensifies these expressions, amplifying the rewards while hiding the cost. What appears adaptive socially may carry consequences rarely examined beneath the surface. Modern systems did not create this pattern. They refined it, scaled it, and rewarded it quietly through structure rather than instruction. Technology favors compression. Ideas must fit screens, time slots, and shrinking attention without resistance. Depth becomes inefficient, while certainty translates cleanly across platforms. An algorithm cannot measure understanding. It measures reaction, speed, and shareability. Confidence delivered quickly appears intelligent to machines, reinforcing human preference for the same signals. A comment dismisses a complex topic with certainty, engagement spikes, visibility increases. Another comment explores nuance patiently. It sinks unnoticed, not rejected, simply ignored. The system teaches without teaching, rewarding the posture that avoids depth. In professional culture, Productivity metrics favor immediate output over slow insight. Thinking that disrupts timelines feels costly, even when it prevents larger failures later. A team rushes toward a decision. One voice hesitates, naming unseen variables. The hesitation is reframed as overthinking, momentum resumes, relief spreads. The cost appears later, disconnected from the original silenced complexity. Cultural narratives praise genius as quick brilliance rather than sustained inquiry. Stories celebrate sudden answers, not long periods of not knowing. This shapes expectations unconsciously. Intelligence should arrive fast or not at all. Educational systems increasingly reward recall over synthesis. Students learn how to sound right before learning how to think deeply. A classroom values participation frequency, not contemplative silence. The student who speaks less appears disengaged, despite active internal processing. The one who speaks confidently is labeled bright, regardless of depth. Over time, this trains fear not of ignorance, but of visible thinking. Silence becomes dangerous because silence invites exposure. Psychologist Irving Goffman describes social life as performance, where maintaining face outweighs truth. Modern platforms turn this performance constant, leaving no private rehearsal space. Every statement becomes public, permanent, searchable. Under these conditions, admitting uncertainty feels risky, even threatening. So certainty hardens, not because it is earned, but because it is safer. News cycles reward simple narratives, punishing complexity as indecision. Experts are pressured to sound sure before evidence settles. Those who revise publicly appear weak, while those who double down appear strong. The fake smart posture thrives here, appearing adaptive, even admirable. Yet internally, the psychological cost accumulates. Maintaining certainty requires constant vigilance, constant comparison, constant defense. Depth in others becomes a mirror, reflecting what is being avoided internally. Irritation grows not from disagreement, but from the threat of self-exposure. A conversation feels exhausting, not because it is complex, but because it risks collapse of the constructed image. This is why dismissal often comes with emotional charge. The charge signals defense, not evaluation. Viktor Frankl noted that meaning collapses when life becomes purely instrumental. When intelligence serves image rather than understanding, emptiness follows quietly. The person appears competent, yet feels increasingly brittle. They must control the room, the narrative, the pace. Anything slower feels dangerous. Modern life amplifies this brittleness while disguising it as success. The reward structure masks the cost, postponing awareness. Yet the tension remains, accumulating beneath performance. Eventually, the contrast between surface intelligence and genuine depth becomes harder to ignore. That moment does not arrive as failure. It arrives as discomfort without a clear source. Awareness begins there, not as insight, but as unease waiting to be understood. Awareness does not arrive as clarity. It arrives as disturbance, a subtle internal friction that resists explanation. The pattern no longer feels external, it feels ambient, woven into reactions, tones, and unexamined preferences. Intelligence appears differently now, less impressive, more unsettling, because it exposes space rather than filling it. Some feel drawn to that space, others feel compelled to close it immediately. The difference is not moral, it is neurological, shaped by history rather than intention. A conversation slows unexpectedly. One person remains present, another grows restless. The restlessness masks something quieter, the urge to restore certainty before identity feels porous. This urge often masquerades as practicality, efficiency, or realism. Few recognize it as fear because it does not feel dramatic. It feels like irritation. Carl Jung observed that the shadow emerges through emotional reactions disproportionate to the situation. Depth activates the shadow because it removes rehearsed responses. A truly intelligent mind does not dominate the room, it alters the field. The alteration feels destabilizing to structures built on appearance. Silence stretches, not empty, but alive with possibility. For some, that silence feels like freedom. For others, it feels like threat. Neither response is chosen consciously. The body reacts before the narrative forms. This is why mockery, dismissal, or impatience appear faster than reflection. They are reflexes, not conclusions. In this light, fake smart is not an insult. It is a description of a protective shell. A shell once useful, now increasingly rigid. The shell fears depth because depth cannot be controlled. It exposes not ignorance, but dependence on performance. Modern life rarely pauses long enough for this recognition to surface. Noise covers it. Speed anesthetizes it. Yet in rare moments, something slips through. A feeling of being seen without being judged. A conversation that lingers uncomfortably. A mind that does not rush to conclude. These moments feel intimate, even when shared publicly. They cannot be captured or repeated. They resist simplification. This resistance is what makes them threatening. Not because they attack identity, because they do not protect it. Some will feel unsettled by this observation. Others will feel quietly relieved. Most will sense something familiar without naming it. Awareness does not demand action. It only reveals structure. What remains unresolved is whether intelligence serves defense or discovery. That tension continues quietly, shaping interactions long after the video ends. The deeper truth does not announce itself. It waits, present in every pause that is not immediately filled.